After the COVID-19 pandemic, any term with the word lockdown raises our fear. And currently, the term energy lockdown is gaining a lot of buzz. So in this session, we'll try and decode what this term exactly means and is this a matter of concern for India. Hello students, welcome to Drishti IAS. My name is Saloni Nandkyoliar. Let's get started. So we know that the war is ongoing between US, Israel and Iran, right? So there's a conflict in West Asia at the moment. The situations in West Asia right now are very troublesome. Because of this, the free movement of oil carrying ships across the Strait of Hormuz has been restricted, and we know that this strait is responsible for 20% of the global oil trade. So this strait is like our main energy corridor, a global energy corridor, and the movement across this strait has been disrupted. Because of this, the entire world at the moment is facing an energy crisis. Because now ships are taking longer to reach their destination, they have to take alternate routes, it has become more expensive, freight costs are increasing. So energy crisis is being faced by the world at the moment, and it is not just Strait of Hormuz, but disruptions are happening even along the Red Sea and Suez Canal region as well. So that's why this energy crisis is ongoing, and because of the limited energy supplies that we have in all the countries at the moment, several countries have imposed certain restrictions. Restrictions like there are certain recommendations that have been made to curb any excess fuel consumption, to basically conserve fuel, gas and electricity as the global oil supply remains hit because the free movement of ships along the Strait of Hormuz has been disrupted. So certain restrictions have been imposed by different countries like fuel rationing, etc. We'll talk about those restrictions later on. But certain restrictions are being imposed worldwide so that we can conserve our limited energy supplies. Because as a result, all the different countries are looking for alternative routes and different things, conserving their energy, moving to renewable energy, etc. But at the moment, we do not know for how long this conflict is going to continue, this war is going to continue, for how long will the trade movement be disrupted. That's why it's an energy crisis-like situation in the world, and because of which these countries are imposing certain restrictions to conserve these energy supplies. And this entire situation of imposing restrictions, etc., is being termed as an energy lockdown. So it's not like a physical lockdown like we had in COVID-19 where you're not allowed to travel, you're not allowed to cross borders, etc. It's not like that, but it's an energy lockdown wherein we have to conserve our fuel, we have to conserve our fuel consumption, we have to conserve our oil and natural gas, everything, so that we can make the most of our limited energy supply. So it's a situation wherein the governments and societies are adopting measures that restrict energy use or movement in order to conserve all these things. This entire situation is being termed as energy lockdown. This is a social media term exactly. It's not an official phrase that has been used by the government, but it's a social media term that is gaining buzz. Influencers are using this a lot because it's a lockdown-like situation where a lot of restrictions have been imposed. We'll talk about those restrictions also. Restrictions differ from one country to another. And this entire situation is being kind of compared with what we had to face during COVID-19. So these restrictions or recommendations that I'm talking about, there are certain recommendations that have been given by the International Energy Agency for all the different countries to follow. It's not exactly a country-wise list, but certain recommendations, general recommendations, have been given by the International Energy Agency so that we can conserve our energy. So if we talk about those recommendations, the first and most important recommendation here is work from home wherever possible. This is a thing that we saw during COVID-19 also. And why do we see this here as well? Because when you have to commute to office, two things happen. Transport, you'll require a transport to commute to office, and when you reach office, we require electricity for our work. So transportation again is going to make our consumption heavy for petrol, diesel or CNG, etc. And right now we are facing a crisis. So transportation is a challenge for us. Then electricity is a challenge for us. So we need to save both these things. We basically need to save all our non-essential expenditure, all our non-essential consumption, so that we can divert this energy to the essential sectors. Essential sectors like we have our households for cooking, we have public transport, we have emergency services, hospitals, etc. These are the essential sectors which need the most electricity or the most energy at the moment. So we have to conserve our energy in all these non-essential sectors. That's why it is being recommended that you work from home wherever it is possible. Reduce the highway speed limits by at least 10 km/h. Now this might look like a very small step, but it is not. So we know that the vehicles, they perform the best when they are moving at a moderate speed. And if we reduce the speed limit, it is going to conserve a lot of energy, a lot of fuel. Because when cars or when vehicles, they are moving at a very high speed, they burn a lot of fuel. Because they have to deal with air resistance or drag. So when the speed is more and more fuel is burned, more and more combustion happens. So in order to save that, if the speed limit is reduced by at least 10 km/h, vehicles will be, vehicles will have to move at moderate speeds, and that is going to conserve a lot of fuel. Then encourage public transport. Again, in order to reduce the individual consumption of petrol, diesel, CNG, etc., more and more public transport is being recommended. Alternate private car access to roads in large cities on different days, something like the odd even things that we used to see in Delhi NCR as well. So on certain days you can allow cars, on certain days you do not allow cars. Those are known as the car-free days. Car-free days. And then increase car sharing and adopt efficient driving practices. Car sharing, so you increase carpooling so that again the individual consumption goes down. And efficient driving practices, that you drive at moderate speeds, you drive at a particular speed limit and don't keep on exceeding it. So these things, these are certain recommendations. And efficient driving for road, commercial vehicles and delivery of goods. Again, the driving has to be efficient. Divert LPG use from transport. This is very important. So we want to divert the LPG use from transport and move it to household cooking. Because this again is a very essential sector. So we need to ensure that appropriate fuel is provided, is available for household cooking. So we want to divert our LPG from transport and we need to move it to household cooking. And here we should rely more and more on CNG. Then avoid air travel. Avoid air travel where alternative options exist, because air travel also, and India basically imports somewhere around 85 to 90% of our crude oil, right? We are the third largest consumer of crude oil in the world, and a lot of this basically goes to the ATF, our fuel that goes, aviation turbine fuel, the fuel that goes in our airplanes. So a lot of fuel is consumed in ATF also. So in order to curb that, in order to reduce that consumption as well, we are saying that we need to reduce our air travel wherever we have alternate options like roadways, railways, waterways available. We can just reduce this consumption of ATF also. And wherever possible, switch to other modern cooking solutions. Other modern cooking solutions like induction. Like induction cooking, we can move to induction cooking. We can move in rural areas, we can move to biogas cooking, so that we basically reduce our dependence on LPG. We can use PNG, we can use induction, we can use biogas. Right now, because we are facing a crisis for LPG, for petrol, for diesel, for CNG, etc. So in these different sectors, we have to make these different adjustments in order to reduce our dependence on LPG for cooking. We can move to other modern cooking solutions. So these are certain recommendations, general recommendations that have been given by the IEA, and different countries are following different things from it. Now, if we talk about the restrictions that are there during the ongoing war, so there are these different restrictions that countries have. First, fuel rationing and purchase limits have been fixed in certain countries, like in Sri Lanka or in Bhutan. Certain fuel limits have been fixed, that this is the amount of weekly fuel, weekly petrol, weekly diesel that you can get from the petrol pump. So fuel rationing is happening and limits have been set. Or even jerry cans are not allowed. So in Bhutan, carrying petrol or filling petrol or conserving petrol in jerry cans is not allowed in order to basically protect the limited energy supplies that we have. So here this thing is happening in different these sectors. Work week reductions and remote work is happening. So work week reductions in Pakistan itself, in the government offices, a 4 working days in a week have been introduced in Pakistan's government offices. We are saving on 1 working day, and that 1 day again is going to create a huge impact. And wherever possible, we are encouraging work from home. Transport and mobility restrictions are there. Like I told you about the car-free days, there are certain countries in Southeast Asia where car-free days for 1 day a week has been introduced. Like in 1 day, on 1 day during the week, cars are not going to be allowed, so you will have to use public transport wherever you have to go. Then power and electricity conservation measures are being introduced. So in certain countries, rotational electricity cuts are also happening in households, rotational cuts in the household, so that we can divert this electricity from the households to our essential sectors, maybe to the hospitals or emergency areas. And even the billboards that we have on the highways, on the expressways, in many countries electricity has been cut off for these billboards also, because this is not essential. None of these things are extremely essential. So we basically have to conserve our energy in all the non-essential areas so that we can keep fueling the essential areas. So these are certain things that different countries across the world are following. And if we talk about the situation in India, will India face an energy lockdown? Will an energy lockdown be imposed in India? So right now, no such thing is happening. We do not have any fuel rationing. We do not have any such restriction that is ongoing. Of course, the government has recommended or encouraged us to use modern solutions, modern cooking solutions, or use as much public transport as possible, reduce our individual consumption of energy. These recommendations are there, but no proper restriction, no proper lockdown has been imposed on us so far, because the government believes that it is capable enough of dealing with such situation. It has already dealt with the COVID-19 situation, and right now also it feels that it can deal with such a situation. If we talk of India's energy reserves at the moment, so we have strategic petroleum reserves. We have strategic petroleum reserves in India, which are our buffer. We have it at 3 places, and here the fuel that we have is sufficient only to cover for 9.5 days of import. We can cover only for 9.5 days of our crude oil import. This is the buffer that we have. And the International Energy Agency recommends every country to have at least 90 days of buffer. But what we have in SPRs is not the entire buffer. It is one part of the buffer. Other than this, commercial stocks are also to be considered, like the IOCL, or you have Bharat Petroleum, or you have Hindustan Petroleum, Indian Oil Corporation. All these companies also, they maintain certain buffer, they maintain certain reserves. So we have to combine the commercial reserves, and we also have to combine the SPRs. And when we combine both of them, we have somewhere around 70 to 75 days of buffer. 90 is recommended. At the moment, we have 70 plus days of buffer. We need more, definitely, but the government at the moment does not feel that we are going to enter into an energy lockdown per se. It is upon all the individuals, all of us as citizens of the country, to keep following such things, keep following such general recommendations, so that we can contribute our bit to conserve the energy. So that was all for this discussion. I hope you were able to understand what do we exactly mean by the term energy lockdown. Now we look at a practice question for prelims. And before we do that, you know that we have this sale for you, which is the Selection Mahotsav sale. Here you're going to get up to 50% off on all our online courses, pen drive courses and test series, and a 25% off on books, TLP and magazines. So don't wait, as this sale is live and will remain so till 26th of March only. So if you have any further queries, please call us at this number 87501 87501, and you can also download the Drishti Learning app. Now let's look at our question. With reference to the term energy lockdown in the context of the ongoing West Asia conflict, consider the following statements. 1. It refers to a situation where global energy supply chains are severely disrupted due to geopolitical conflicts. 2. It may involve closure or disruption of key maritime choke points such as the Strait of Hormuz. 3. It leads to a complete transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy sources in the short term. 4. It can result in rationing and prioritization of energy supplies within countries. Choose the correct statements. A. 1 and 2 only. B. 2 and 4 only. C. 2, 3 and 4 only. Or D. 1, 2 and 4 only. Please attempt this question and provide your answers in the comment section. Thank you for watching.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.